Welcome to another edition of The Rundown. Going to be breaking down Thursday night football between the Rams and the Seahawks. Tua getting benched, and also a few of the games I'm looking forward to this weekend. But first, I of course got to start off with Thursday night football. The Seahawks won 38-37 in overtime, and this was one of the best games I've ever seen in my life. And this game definitely lived up to the billing. The Rams, you could see that they just wanted to be aggressive. I think their mindset was they're in Seattle, it's a raucous crowd, they're the underdogs, and they're going to take destiny into their own hands. And they went for it on their own 38-yard line on 4th and 1. They got that. Eventually, they got to Seattle's 39-yard line and went for it on 4th and inches, and they failed. It was a turnover on downs, and Seattle is able to get a touchdown. Ken Walker gets a nice 46-yard run that gets Seattle into position to score. But I want to move on to the second quarter. Seattle punted the ball a couple times just trying to establish the run. Too many Zach Charbonnet runs, in my opinions. He was getting like 2-3 yards, and on second and long, third and long, Seattle had to throw, and it just didn't end well for them. I honestly would have preferred if they gave the ball to Ken Walker more and just gave him more of the carries, because even though he was boom or bust, he was still like doing way better than like Zach Charbonnet, who had like 8 carries and 27 yards for the game. So Ken Walker would have been a better option, and I wish that they used him like how the Colts used Jonathan Taylor or how the Ravens used Derrick Henry and just give him the vast majority of the carries. He only had 11 carries to Charbonnet's 8, and that's way too much of a imbalance in my opinion. But anyways, Seattle is down 13-7 in the second quarter. They have the ball with 3 minutes and 43 seconds left, and they're actually moving the ball down the field really well. Darnold throws a nice ball to Cooper Kupp over the middle, and he fumbles it. That cost Seattle a minimum of 3 points, and they could have double dipped because they get the ball back in the third quarter, and my mindset is like, okay, at minimum, get a field goal. Maybe start of the third quarter, you get a touchdown to take the lead, or potentially, maybe another field goal to tie the game. That's not the worst thing in the world, especially when you're going against a great team. And when Cooper Kupp fumbled the ball, I was just thinking this is just going to come back to bite Seattle. But start of the third quarter for Seattle, they get a TD, and that's because Ken Walker has a nice 55-yard touchdown. And then after that, Sam Darnold turned into the old Sam Darnold. They're down 16-14 with about 6 minutes and 44 seconds left in the third quarter. Sam Darnold throws what's practically a pick six to Josh Wallace. He gets it to the 1-yard line, and Rams get the touchdown, and it's 23-14. And then Seattle goes 3 and out when they got the ball back because of a holding call. Rams come down, get a touchdown to go up 30-14, and it's off a big Puka Nacua play where he went for like 58 yards. And after that, though, Seattle's actually moving the ball down the field well again, and they get it to the goal line, and it should be a minimum of 3 points, so potentially down 30-17. And Darnold throws another pick to Kobe Turner, and I was lifeless and despondent at that point, and I'm just thinking, okay, there's just not a chance that Seattle's going to be able to come back in this game. I'm just thinking Sam Darnold is a choker. He can win the big one. For some reason, the Seahawks just can't win against the Rams when it matters the most, and I'm just thinking we're not going to be able to get the number 1 seed. Everything is falling down and crashing down, but things started to change from that point forward, weirdly enough. Rams go 3 and out and punt, and Rashid Shaheed gets a punt return touchdown. Seattle gets the 2-pointer, and all of a sudden it's 30-22 with 8 minutes left in the game, and I'm thinking, okay, Seattle has a slim chance, but they have a chance nonetheless. Seattle comes up big, their defense. They get another 3 and out. And then Rashid Shaheed on offense gets a nice 31-yard run, and Darnold finds A.J. Barner wide open for a touchdown to make it 30-28. And then what comes next is the weirdest 2-point conversion in NFL history. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. And like I said before, in the NFL, you'll see things that you've never seen before, no matter how long you've watched it. I think they're going to write about this in the history books. But anyway, Sam Darnold, he throws it behind to Charbonnet. So pretty much it's a live ball. It goes off a Rams player's helmet. Everyone thinks the play is dead, but the ball ends up in the end zone, and Charbonnet just casually picks it up. I don't think he knew that he got the 2-point conversion, and I didn't think he knew that it was pretty much a live ball. But anyways, the refs, they reviewed it for a while, and I don't think the Rams knew what was going on. I don't think the crowd knew what was going on, and or even the Seahawks knew what was going on. But the rest ruled it a 2 point conversion, and all of a sudden it's 30-30. And I'm thinking, okay, the Seahawks are back in business. They are back in the game. So it's tied up with 6 minutes and 20 seconds left in the game. Both teams' offenses just couldn't do anything. And I was massively disappointed in Seattle. Again, just too much focus on running the ball. Sam Darnold took a couple costly sacks. It was bad, and I just felt like Seattle gave up on third and long this game. Whenever it was like third and 7, third and 10, or even bigger than that, Seattle would just throw these quick screen passes. And my mindset was just like, why would you do that? Why not just like throw it near the line again? I don't know why they do this with Darnold sometimes, where they just do not trust him to like make these throws, even though he's shown throughout the season that he's capable of making those throws. I know that he had some interceptions this game, but still, that's no reason to throw quick screen passes. Against a team like the Rams, you're just not going to be able to convert those. But anyways, the game goes to overtime. The Rams get the ball first. Boom, they get a touchdown. Puka does his thing, and he was just awesome all game. And with all the streaming distraction or like tweets or whatever, he just balled out. So the Rams go up 37-30 in overtime. Seattle comes down, gets a touchdown, and Darnold throws a nice ball to JSN at the goal line. So it's 37-36, and Seattle goes for two. And I was totally okay with this decision, because tying up the game does absolutely nothing for Seattle, because the Rams would still get the number one seed even if the game ended in a tie, because they beat Seattle earlier in the season. So there was no point. I just think it made sense to just, have destiny in your hands and just win the game right then and there. And they went for two, and Darnold is able to get it to Saubert in the end zone. He's wide open. The game is over. And I think this game signifies just a new era for the Seattle Seahawks. I know that Mike MacDonald has done an excellent job this season, but this is his signature win. I've been talking like all season ad nauseum just about when is Mike MacDonald going to get his signature win. Beating the Jags and the Texans is nice, but you got to beat the Rams, and he was able to beat the Rams and pass that test. And this is what I've longed for since the Pete Carroll era, is just be able to beat Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford at full strength. And it took a lot of weird things happening, but nonetheless, McDonald was able to take it and win it. And I feel pretty confident, because even the last game the Seahawks played against the Rams, if Darnold didn't throw 4 interceptions, they might have won that game also. So this shows that McDonald, even though he doesn't have the accolades like McVay does, or even the accolades that Shanahan does, even though Shanahan hasn't won a Super Bowl yet, it shows that as of now, he's on par with those coaches. And for him to get the number one seed, at least clinch it as of now, we'll see what happens once the regular season ends. But Seattle is in pretty good position to win the number one seed is pretty damn impressive. I just don't think a lot of coaches would have gotten Seattle into that position, and I don't think Pete Carroll would have done it. And Darnold, got to give credit to him, way to bounce back, threw a couple picks, but he was able to show resiliency and just, make some big boy throws and just be able to lead Seattle to victory. When last time, when he threw a couple picks, you could see that he just got down on himself and he just proceeded to throw pick after pick. But this time around, he was able to just steady himself and, calm himself down and just, lead the offense to victory. And you need a QB to have a short memory, kind of like an NBA player. If an NBA player misses like 5-6 shots in a row, it doesn't matter. You just get it out of your memory and you shoot the next one. And that's what quarterbacks need to do. And I think that's what Sam Darnold is learning, that if you throw a pick, you just got to come down and you just got to keep trusting your mechanics, and you got to keep trusting your wide receivers and just make those throws in a tight windows. And he was able to do that. Rams, tough loss for them. Definitely got screwed in some ways. I think end of the first quarter, a touchdown got overruled because of a penalty where it was like ineligible man downfield. And on the broadcast, the rules analyst said that it wasn't an eligible man downfield. So the Rams got screwed out of a touchdown. They had to settle for a field goal. So they basically got screwed out of 4 points that definitely would have swung the momentum of this game, and Seattle probably would have not gotten the dub. But you know what? They were up 16 points in the fourth quarter. So I really don't want to hear any excuses, really. Stafford, though, I still have him for MVP. It's a bad loss for sure. They're now tied up with the Bills in terms of record. Stafford had multiple opportunities to win it, and if his kicker is able to make a 48-yarder, it's a different story, but there was just a lot of wind, so I'm not going to knock the kicker for missing a 48-yarder, but now I think Stafford just needs to win out, and Allen is now quickly on his heels when it comes to winning the MVP. So Stafford needs to take care of business towards the end of the regular season. And just one other note, I feel bad for Sean McVay in the media presser. The media was just asking him just bad questions. I know sometimes the media needs to ask tough questions, and coaches don't like it, but they totally missed the point of this game. They should have been asking him questions about the game when you just have one of the craziest games of the year, but they were too busy asking him about Puka Nacua and like his streaming controversy. And then at the end of the game, he tweeted like, appreciate the refs or something along those lines. And it's just dumb to ask it at that point. You ask those questions on Wednesday, right after the game, like a game like that where it's crazy. You ask about the game, and the media just totally missed the moment. And Sean McVay looked pissed, and he totally had every right to be pissed. And it's moments like those where I'm thinking, geez, Belichick had a point about being a dick to the media, because sometimes the media just totally misses the point, and they missed it badly after that game. So, we'll see. Seahawks, though, like I said, clinched the number 1 seed, have Carolina and San Francisco next. Gotta beat those two teams in order to pretty much wrap up the division. I don't know how all the tiebreaker stuff works, but I think like if the Rams, Niners, and Seahawks all ended in a tie, I don't think Seattle would be able to clinch the number 1 seed, especially because I would presume that with the Niners beating Seattle twice, that they would probably be in the number 1 seed. So they got to take care of business against Carolina and against San Francisco. And with San Francisco having the litany of injuries they have, Seattle should be able to beat them, and we'll see how the playoffs shake out. But this is the most excited I've been as a Seattle Seahawks fan in the past 7 years, to be honest. I guess 2019, 2020, I was pretty excited as a Seahawks fan, but I just felt that it was going to come down and crash because I just did not trust Pete Carroll in the playoffs, and I was right not to, but we'll see what Mike MacDonald does. Anyways, I want to talk about the Tua thing. Miami had lost their game to Pittsburgh on Monday night, 28-15. Tua was 22 of 28, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Aaron Rodgers was 23 for 27, 224 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And this game practically ended Miami's playoff hopes, and it also kind of ended Tua's career with the Dolphins. Mike McDaniel announced that Quinn Ewers will now be the starter. Zach Wilson will be the backup, and Tua will be the emergency third-string quarterback. And I gotta wonder, how bad does Zach Wilson have to be for him not to be able to win the starting job? I mean, the guy's been in the league for 5 years now. You'd think he'd be able to beat out Quinn Ewers, who's a 7th-round pick. And I don't think there's any politics going around here where Quinn Ewers is a rookie and Mike McDaniel just wants to see what he has in his rookie. If Quinn Ewers was a first round pick, I could see, okay, there's potentially politics being involved, but I just don't think Zach Wilson is good enough. But anyways, it is what it is. Tua's stat line, even though it looked decent against Pittsburgh, he only had 65 yards through 3 quarters and he had an interception. And by the time he started to turn it around, it was just too little, too late. And this is kind of sad for Tua. Mike McDaniel was his ardent supporter. There was a video on a plane where Mike McDaniel was talking to Tua when he first got the job, talking to him how great he was and how they were going to do great things together and how he was going to get all he could out of Tua. And Tua had that one good season in 2022, played 11 games that year, and then in 2023 he also had a pretty decent season, but they got blown out against Kansas City because guess what? The weather was -5 degrees, and it just hasn't been a great season for Tua this time around. Has thrown for 2,660 yards, 20 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, 36.7 QBR ratings, and I think there's only a couple quarterbacks that are worse than him. And I've just said this about Tua before. You just can't go far with him. he's just too limited as a quarterback. He's small, he's frail, he just doesn't have the strongest arm, can't win in cold weather, and he just needs a lot of support. Like, he needs everything perfect around him. He needs like super duper fast wide receivers, needs a good O line, probably needs a decent running game, and if he's off his first read, the man is just not as good. I'll say this though about Tua, he's gotten everything he could out of his ability, but in a league like the NFL where it's just much more physical, he simply can't hold up, and he's just been way too injury prone. Now Joe Burrow, he's also been injury prone, and I know the Bengals haven't made the playoffs in the past few years or so, but Joe Burrow at his peak is like a top 2, top 3, top 4 quarterback, and he's gotten the Bengals to the Super Bowl, so he has equity that Tua doesn't. So there is that. I imagine the door has closed on Tua returning to the Dolphins. There's just no way that you can come back from something like this. He still has a few years left on his deal. $54 million is guaranteed to him next season. If the Dolphins move on from Tagovailoa this offseason, the Dolphins' 2026 cap hit would be $99.2 million if cut before June 1st. $45.2 million if he's traded before June 1st. That's not happening. There's no way in hell that anyone is going to trade for Tua. $67.4 million if cut after June 1st, with another $31.8 million on Miami's 2027 cap. So I imagine that he's probably going to be cut after June 1st, because there's no way, like I said, that anybody's going to be able to trade for Tua, because that contract is just too humongous. You know, I can see why the Dolphins want to move on. Like I've said, he just doesn't have a lot of ability, and you just want to have a quarterback that you truly believe in, that can, like, be your franchise guy, and that isn't as injury prone. I mean, the Broncos did it with Russ. They were willing to eat all that dead money with him, and luckily, Sean Payton and the Broncos, they were able to strike gold in a great QB class, and they were able to find Bo Nix with the number 12 pick. I doubt Miami's going to be able to find a QB in this class. I think they should just reset for the 2026 season and hope in 2027 they could potentially find their franchise QB. I don't know how good that QB class is in 2027, but hopefully it's better than 2026. I also assume they're probably going to trade for Tyreek. He posted that disappearing, black guy meme, and so that just shows he's probably not going to be there. Tyreek is injured and a little bit older. I don't think that the Dolphins are going to get a haul for him, but I'm sure that he has some trade value around the league. He only has a year left on his deal, so I assume that he's going to hold some type of leverage on which destination that he wants to go to. I'm sure Kansas City, I presume, would love to have him back. I mean, he was a good guy in Kansas City. I think those guys liked him, but he just wanted more money, so he just decided to dip. I wonder if Mike McDaniel is going to keep his job. I said that he should have been fired during the season, but they've been able to turn it around. They've been able to get some wins, and Stephen Ross apparently likes Mike McDaniel. So, it looks like he's going to keep his job. And honestly, considering how, the run they've gone on towards the end of this season, I think he should be able to keep his job and, find a quarterback that's actually his quarterback. I think he believed in Tua at first, but I just think with Tua's injury concerns and just like with his arm being shot, there's just no way you could continue to proceed with him as your franchise quarterback. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with the Dolphins, but I'm glad that they're making this decision and they're just not being like, oh, we signed into a massive contract extension, so we have to stick with Tua. I'm glad that they're taking the Denver's way of approach. Anyways, I want to preview a few of the games that I'm interested in. I want to talk about Jaguars and Broncos. Jaguars have been on a 5-game winning streak. They've been hot. Denver has been on an 11-game winning streak. Both these teams are similar when it comes to rushing. 1690 rushing yards for the Jaguars, 1673 rushing yards for the Broncos. In terms of total yards allowed per game for their defenses, Denver is 5th at 287.7, and Jacksonville is 10th at 308.5. So not too much of a difference. Denver is 11th in passing, 226 yards per game. Jacksonville is 18th at 215 yards per game. Again, not a complete difference. Trevor Lawrence, he's been hot after how bad he's played against Arizona. The last 3 games, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and it looks like as of now he's starting to just put stuff together, which is fantastic, and he's starting to look like the quarterback like the Jaguars hoped he would be when he got picked number one out of Clemson. Bo Nix has also played well. He balled against Green Bay, 300 yards, about that, 4 touchdowns. Broncos have been 8-2 in one-score games, and for the Jaguars and for Lawrence, this is the first game in a while they faced stiff competition. Denver's defense is damn good, and other than the Chargers, this is the first game where they're going to face a real test, and they blew out the Chargers, but again, the Chargers don't have an offensive line. Denver is just a whole different other animal, and I think this game will show whether or not the Jaguars can compete against big boy teams. If they lose, that's fine, but the Jaguars just need to show that they can compete with the Denvers of the world and potentially do something in the playoffs. And I think that the Broncos will probably win this game. I think Lawrence will throw an interception or so, even though he's been safe with the ball. But I think like someone from Denver's secondary will pick him off. I just think Denver just has a lot of talent on both sides of the ball than Jacksonville does. I mean, that obviously doesn't mean everything, of course. It's any given Sunday, and we've seen it throughout NFL history where just because a team has more talent than another team, that doesn't necessarily mean that they always get the dub. So we'll see. But I just trust Bo Nix more in clutch time than I do Trevor Lawrence, and I think this game will come down to the end, but I just think Denver will be the one to pull it out. And yeah, it just feels like everything is coming together for Denver, and I just think they're going to go on a run towards the end of the regular season, and they're probably going to get the number one seed. I'm going to go Denver wins this game 26-21. Now, I want to talk about the Saturday game, Bears and Packers. This is going to be an exciting rematch. The Bears, the last time they faced the Packers, they had an opportunity to tie it up at the end until Caleb threw a game-ending interception. Chicago, they're coming off a blowout win against Cleveland. Green Bay, of course, is coming off a tough loss against Denver. Green Bay, we all know that they lost Micah Parsons. Christian Watson went out with an injury in the Denver game, but he's expected to be ready to go. Zach Tom, the right tackle, he exited, but he should be back. That's good. And they need bodies on their own line with Elston Jenkins being out. I think Green Bay, this game, offensively, they'll be fine, and defensively, they should be able to hold up. And I think Green Bay is going to win the game because Chicago just doesn't have their weapons on offense. Rome Odunze is not going to play. Luther Burden isn't going to play. And I think Caleb is probably really going to struggle this time around. I mean, he struggled last time, the first half against Chicago, where he only threw for like 32 yards. Second half, he had like 154 yards, but I think in this game, he'll probably be close to 200 yards passing, but not quite there. Ben Johnson, come hell or high water, we all know that that guy's going to run the ball, and I'm sure with Rome Odunze and Luther Burden being out that they're going to run the ball out even more. Chicago's averaging 151.9 yards per game, which is second in the league to Buffalo. Chicago last game had 27 carries against Green Bay, and it wasn't gaudy by any means. DeAndre Swift had 13 carries for 63 yards. Manangnai had 14 carries for 57 yards. They need to be better this time around, and I presume that they're going to have probably more than 30 carries between those two, so they're going to need to rely on the running game even more. Jordan Love threw an interception last game. I don't think he's going to throw an interception this time around, but I think Caleb will certainly have an interception. So I got Green Bay winning 24-13. I think it'll be maybe close for and a half, but I just think towards the second half, Green Bay is going to pull away. Now I want to talk about the Sunday night matchup, Patriots and Ravens. Patriots and Ravens. Patriots are coming off a tough loss against Buffalo. Baltimore blew out Cincinnati. Baltimore is like a game behind Pittsburgh, so they need to win every game they can at this point. And if they win this game, they have a good chance of winning the division. But if not, it's going to be like really tough to come back from. Not that it's impossible, but it'll be really tough. Even though Baltimore blew out Cincy, they've just been struggling offensively. I mean, they lost against Cincy and Pittsburgh before this last Cincy game, but I think that this Ravens game will determine whether or not they're capable of actually doing something in the playoffs if they make the playoffs, and that they can actually contend with the big boy teams. Lamar's been sacked 23 times, and they're going through some issues with Ronnie Stanley and Roquan Smith. and they've been absent from practice. I don't know whether or not they're going to come back. Patriots are ranked 23rd in sacks. Lamar got sacked 4 times against Cincy, and Cincy's defense isn't exactly anything to write home about. So I predict that the Patriots are going to be able to get like maybe 2, 3, even 4 sacks on Lamar. I think Baltimore will probably get 14 to 17 points on offense, and Baltimore's defense is a little banged up. So I think New England is going to be able to score, more than Baltimore probably. There's only been 2 times where the Patriots have scored less than 20 points this season, and I don't think that's going to change this time around. So I got the Patriots winning 27 to 14. And yeah, that's going to be tough for Baltimore to come back from, like I said, for sure. And I believe Baltimore has Green Bay and Pittsburgh after that, so they still have tough teams to contend with. I mean, Pittsburgh's got Detroit and Cleveland, which is considerably easier, but you can't trust Pittsburgh. But I just think with this loss, Baltimore probably loses the division. And yeah, yeah, it would be really bad if the Ravens miss the playoffs. I hope that they can make it, but I just think the Patriots got this game in the bag. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys. I'm not going to be recording next week. Going to be busy with Christmas and stuff. I will be back the week after that to talk about what went down in the NFL, and I'll probably talk a little bit NBA. So I will be back 2 Mondays from now. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Please like and subscribe and enjoy the rest of your Friday. Thank you.